wake up in our physical surrounding world, we wake up in a mediated world, which is the public world of appearance that we get through television. Turn on the TV in the morning, what is happening in the world, and there your public world happens. So how do these concepts relate? Well, mundane citizenship is when, through modest, sometimes hard to notice acts of citizenship, people go beyond the boundaries, break the boundaries of their private sphere, their small world, and appear in the public space of appearance, which is the Mediapolis. How much time do I have? I am, okay. So here are my goals halfway through. In my case study, my main goal has been to understand the genesis of civic agency. In the whole construct that Peter has put out for us, the part that I am the most fascinated with is the notion of civic agency. Now, what is it that makes a private person position him or herself as a civic agent? What is the ferment? How does that happen? And then, of course, I want to document and trace these novel practices of mundane citizenship that transform subactivism into some form of activism through the creative use of new media. And then, at a larger scale, I'm interested in capturing these evolving structures and dynamics of Silverstone's Mediapolis. What do these novel practices of citizenship have to add to the inherited Mediapolis? And I'm going to go through a couple of small examples that I will analyze for you to try to capture this moment where civic agency emerges in my site of interest. So this quote comes from the site Bege Mama. And what happens here is that in a theme called the Gossip Shop, the Gossip Mill, I'll kept that, but I thought it was more appropriate called the Gossip Shop. And of course I had to translate from the Bulgarian. A woman, and her signature is down there. You can notice that she's a regular user, and until that point she has had 4,380 posts on the site. And in that site people have this reputational hierarchy of activity and participation, which is measured like in the army with these little stars. So the regular user gets 3 stars, which tells us that she's an established member of the community whom other members know. She comes out in the Gossip Shop and invites or appeals to other members to support this petition of the Coalition for the Nature. And this is an interesting coalition in itself that I won't be able to talk much about. It's an NGO, or rather a coalition of environmental NGOs, regarding the amendments prepared to the law on genetically modified organisms, which would allow growing GMO in the protected territories, the natural reserves of Bulgaria. A meeting of the Parliamentary Commission for the Environment is planned for December 10th, so an urgent reaction is needed. And this woman posted this appeal on December 8th, 2009. What follows is a very intense discussion and building of a base of collective knowledge about what genetically modified organisms are. And there, I would propose that what we see in action is a we-pistemology, where these women start talking about it and looking for evidence and inviting scholars to join, and some of them come in and say, I am a biologist, I am a geneticist, I am a biotechnologist. These experts are subjected to intense questioning and questioning full of doubt and indeed mistrust or distrust in how much they know and what proof they have for what they're claiming and so on. So within this boiling cauldron of knowledge building, these women, over the course of a month, come to the conclusion that protests, organized action is needed in order to stop this proposed amendment because it is detrimental to Bulgarian the population, to the future of their children, also to Bulgarian nature, to our beloved local organisms such as the famous Bacillus bulgaricus that is responsible for the Bulgarian famous yogurt, and it may not be famous with you, but it is something that national identity is built on mostly. And also the extremely tasty Bulgarian tomatoes and so on. And women say if these things disappear because of the introduction of genetically modified organisms, our identity will be diluted and lost. So it's a matter of caring for our children, but also protecting our national identity and the way of life that we cherish. So a month later, a petition is being put out. What has happened between the December 8th first appeal and this date when the petition goes out is not only the intensive knowledge building, the epistemology work, but also the kind of self-election of a group of women who become the organizers of this action and who collectively again work on the wording of this petition, exchange documents, pass it back and forth, put it on the site so that people can contribute and also vote for the versions of the petition that they like the most. At that time, everybody else is having Christmas and New Year celebrations. These women are not. They have abandoned their families. Their families are eating canned food because they're busy doing this. As the parliament goes back to work in the beginning of the new year, the petition is out and some protests are being organized. Now, the pictures I have here are from later because from the first protest it evolved into a wave of protests where again this organizing committee, the women who were at the core of the activities, learned a number of things. They learned how to write petitions already. They learned how to lobby the parliament, how to approach institutions, how to deal with them. Some of that experience was already in place from previous actions and initiatives, but here it had to be elevated to the level of parliamentary committees, ministers, the prime minister in the end. In a mundane way, those who were not part of this core group were able to contribute through some inventive acts, such as making postcards with their children, which postcards were later exhibited in the center of Sofia where politicians could see them. There is this tradition in Bulgaria called the martinica, which are little things that you put on white and red on 1st of March. They created martinica for the politicians that also had this message of vote against genetically modified foods. Women sat at home with their children and worked on these little handwork projects, and that was their contribution. From the whole country, these postcards and martinicas streamed into the capital, where they were brought to the politicians. Finally, they organized a very professional concert, all with donated work and performance by well-known artists, singers, groups in the center of Sofia. So they were also the people who learned how to do that. This woman, actually, she's here on my picture. She's a physicist who, in her interview with me, said, as a physicist, I thought I could give people sort of scientific analysis of the issues. I could write a letter. I didn't know that I could organize a concert and build the stage, or help build the stage, and do all these managerial things that a concert takes. They learned all that in the course of a couple of months. In their words, for 3 months we had not slept. So what has made this site, this fertile ground for such kind of organization and activity? The site combines commercial and community service model. It's a small business venture run by 2 very dedicated administrators and owners. But the spirit of the site is one of community service. People go there with the belief that they are joining and contributing to a community, although there are the advertisings and there are the necessary commercial aspects that are needed in order to maintain the site. There is a very strict and solid organization of hierarchy and activities on the site. There are several levels of moderation, and moderators have unconditional power. They can ban members, they can erase contributions. They are the ones that run the place. There are very strict rules and constant monitoring. As I said, all themes are managed very carefully so that things do not appear, one theme does not appear in many places, and so on. So it is a very well organized, well managed, and constantly monitored place, which could be problematic at many levels, but it also contributes, in my understanding, to that spirit of community that in the end allows for these more organized and professional civic activities to become possible. The underlying principles, how many? 2. The underlying principles, interestingly, are no politics, no selling, no commerce except for those ads, civility, unconditional, no cruelty, inhumanity. These are mothers, the administrator says. There are many pregnant women. We cannot afford anything that is cruel, inhuman. Freedom of expression, but also very strict control over its style. Now, I will end with my analysis of where the civic agency is actually emerging from. And to my mind, what makes this possible is the intense interaction that happens on that site. Somehow the site represents this intermediate plane between public and private. It is a plane where women come in and develop this, what I would call intimate publicness, where they can feel as public figures and yet have the comfort and protection of a friendly environment. So it's not like leaping straight from a private life onto the big public stage, but rather taking one small step at a time to become publicly known within this friendly community, and then later on with that confidence to step out into the actual public stage. Solidarity building happens through this interactivity with banal, shared personal issues, which then, as you could see, get elevated to a civic, more universal interest level. The reputational hierarchy helps with this, and so on. But what I find key is this collective ethos. that develops on the site. The fact that there are ethical rules which allow these people to